She's still laughing.
That's so funny. Welcome to 5 Lemons Left. We're the real stuff, the lemons making lemonade. So pucker up, because we're going to be discussing our life's lessons and the nitty-gritty details of our spiritual journeys.
Hey y'all, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Drusilla.
I'm Melissa.
Hello, this is Morgan.
And I'm Penny. Welcome to our podcast today.
Happy Mother's Day, everyone. Happy Mother's Day to my mother in heaven. Happy Mother's Day to all the people that are the mothers that are on the planet, whether you mother a cat or a dog or yourself, you mother one child or 6 children. Happy Mother's Day. Yeah. Today,
or 10.
Or 10. Happy Mother's Day, Drusilla's mother. Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about the connection between a mother and a child. When does that connection actually start? How does that initial connection influence and affect the rest of our life? What we're learning and discovering is that how a child grows up and thrives in life is directly related to the happiness of the mother, what the mother is going through. Is the person that's mothering, is she depressed? Is she happy? Is she in shock because now she has to care for another child? What are we learning from our mothers, and how does it affect our lives? And in retrospect, we'll talk a little bit about how to unwind that learning as well. What if we're carrying something that we don't want anymore? How do we get rid of that? Yeah. So let me open it up to you guys. Do you want to wish your mother, do a personal happy Mother's Day? And what have you learned from your mother?
All right.
I'll start.
Okay.
Happy Mother's Day to my mom. I was blessed with a wonderful, loving, happy, fun, accepting, non-judgmental mother. She's amazing. Dana, happy Mother's Day. And I loved your opening, Amanda. Happy Mother's Day to all of the non-traditional mothers out there like myself who have never birthed any children, but definitely still have some mothering instincts, and maybe you've mothered some creative projects or businesses or 4 pets like myself.
Yep.
So yeah, happy Mother's Day to all of those people as well. And what was your other question? What have I learned from my mother?
Yeah, like from the beginning, like, if you could remember, like, when you were born to, not that you can remember when you were born, but like, what did you get from your mother? What did you observe? Not what she tried to teach you, but what did you learn from observation?
Well, it felt very safe in my house, and it felt very happy in my house. My mother was quite young when she got married, and she was in her early to mid 20s when she had children. She had us. So they still like to have fun. And I mean, we had a pool table in our house. I remember like sitting in one of those chairs that hangs from the ceiling and sitting in the swing chair watching like my parents and their couple friends and my brother play pool together and stuff. You know what I mean? So I think I learned that relationships, there can be lots of play and fun in them. Of course, no one's perfect. That would include my mother. So I also learned the value of working hard. I think that like my work ethic that I spoke about in a previous episode, like that came directly from both of my parents. My mom worked full time from the age of 17 in a corporate job, 9 to 5, 5 days a week. And then came home and cooked a delicious, well-balanced meal for us, did all of the housework. And, so definitely probably, learned a little bit of the sacrificing mentality, doing all the things for all the people, putting yourself last, learned some of that. But, mostly, it's that safety that I felt, that happiness, that playfulness and fun. I mean, we played lots of games. We had like one of those at home laser tag games, and we would like partner up, me and dad against my brother and my mom, and we would play laser tag in the house, or we would go outside and play basketball. So, yeah, that was what I learned from my mother. I'm totally blessed.
It sounds wonderful.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it was
Yeah.
lots of
A
joy.
great childhood.
Yeah, it makes me want to move in.
I know.
I know, I'm trying not to be a little jelly, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm glad I went first, because if you all were like going to share some like bad stories, then I would feel like kind of a dickhead rolling in with my Pollyanna story after.
So now we're going to go downhill. So great. Thanks, Morgan.
Yeah.
Well, happy Mother's Day, Margaret Ann. And I think that, so it was just my mother and my sister and I, and of course my father, but then they split up, and then it was pretty much two separate households. And my mom was just so smart, so independent. And like when she said when she applied for college, she honestly, we grew up in Oregon, she had no idea. She's like, I didn't know I could go to Stanford or Berkeley or Harvard, which she could have rocked. But she was like, I had the option of University of Oregon or Oregon State. And my father, her boyfriend at the time, was in a farming program at Oregon State. So she went there. And so then I think her life just was all about kind of coming out of that and coming out of like the 70s. And I've said this before on the podcast. When she first married my father, she couldn't have her own bank account. She had to have a man's signature on her bank account. And
that sounds ludicrous. I'm sorry. What year was this?
It was early 70s. Yeah, I'm not really sure the date that changed, but early 70s. And she was making more than my father. She was getting her master's degree. She has a couple master's degrees, and she has her PhD, a doctorate. So I think it was just all of that, like finding her power, finding like just being this powerful person in this very unempowered environment. And then she had two girls, and we just grew up really fast because she was spreading her wings. I think she was just becoming the woman she always wanted to be. And it was hard for all of us. She was very non-traditional, and we were in a very traditional, like Catholic school setting, and she was very non-traditional. And that was hard sometimes. So, and I've had this like realization that my two sons, like when the shit hits the fan, I'm the one they come to. Like they need to be calmed down or told it's okay, or talked things out. Like, let's look at all the angles, and or someone that's just kind of letting them share whatever it is without a lot of judgment. They come to me, and I absolutely learned that from my mom, because I absolutely did that. I was the same child to her as my children are to me, which is just, I knew I could tell her anything and everything, and we would work it out, and it would be not necessarily solved, but it would just, I would feel heard and felt and guided and directed from someone who knew more than I did, and calm down. And then, and I knew it was all happening without judgment. So I think in her struggles to become who she is in a very restricted environment and come out of that, I think she really developed a lot of compassion. And so I think that is the greatest gift that she's given us, non-judgmental love and direction and compassion. And I love it. I honestly, like, just the way things are happening in my life these days. Penny was talking about journaling earlier before we got on the podcast. And I have not journaled for like 25 years, literally like 25 years. And I started journaling like this month sometime, about 30 days ago. And I can't even tell you how much my life is shifting and changing and opening up, and things that I've always kind of packed around are being unpacked. And I think it's journaling, Penny. I really do. So with all that and my kids coming to me and stuff, I'm really realizing these kind of things that my mom has given me. Because when I really, like, literally this morning, I was down sitting with my son and I was like, holy shit. This feels like when I sat with my mom when I was 18, crying and upset. So, yeah, that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Story.
Yeah.
Right, Penny.
Yeah. So my mom just passed away in November, Thanksgiving Day, as a matter of fact. And I was not going to cry, you guys. Damn it. Because it's good for her not to be in her human body any longer. So I believe I have my positive attitude because of my mom. I think she was always looking at things, positively. I really believe that when she was younger, probably when I was more in those formative years, from the age of like 1 to 5 or 7, we create all of our beliefs we have. All of our beliefs are created at that time. And so our mothers are so influential in those beliefs that are created. And, then we spend the rest of our life on doing all those beliefs because we make them when we don't have the ability to discern what's really real and what's not. Anyway, so I really do. I was thinking about like, what did I learn from my mom? What did I observe my mom doing? She was really creative. I mean, she had 7 kids. Well, there was 6 of us by the time she was 28. And that's amazing to have 6 kids. Wow. By the time you're 28 years old. And and we were, dirt farmers, small grain farmers in North Dakota. So she used everything. And she grew up, she was born in 1935. So she grew up in the Depression. So she used everything. We processed our own animals. We raised our own garden. She sewed all of our clothes. Freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Really think about it. So she just used everything that she had to the best of her ability. And that was really cool. So I learned creativity, I learned tenacity, I learned persistence. Yeah, those are the good things. I also watched her stay in a relationship that I didn't think she should stay in. And so I've learned to maybe settle somewhat too for, you know, when, I've been in relationships where I should have never stayed in those relationships before. This is before I got married. And so I think I learned how to settle and accept unacceptable behavior at times. Yeah. But most of all, it's so funny we would be talking about this today because in the last week or so, I've had this thought, a reminder, a memory. And it's when I'm pretty little. It's probably in 72 or 73, or maybe 1971. And I'm scared. And so I remember going into my mom and dad's room and like laying on the side of the bed, putting my head on the bed. And I woke up mom because it was her side. And I just felt safe. It's like I could go there and be safe for whatever the bad dream was or whatever. And so she also taught me safety as well, that she was a safe person to be around. Yeah, so I'm sorry that I'm such a mess, but it's all good.
It is all good.
It's a beautiful mess.
Yeah.
I remember once in our mastery circle when I first met you guys. Oh my gosh, I was having such a huge breakdown. And I said, you know what, you guys, I'm just going to go off camera and off mic and just have a good old cry. I almost feel like I need to do that right now. So I'm just going to mute myself and you guys go about and do what you need to do.
Thank you for sharing that lovely story about your mom and your experience of your mom growing up.
She even made her own ketchup.
Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy.
How old's your youngest daughter? 25?
Yeah, she'll be 26 on Sunday.
And then think about one of your daughters having 6 kids.
Can you imagine?
I just feel like the little girl's still in there.
Yeah.
Raising, and having all this responsibility.
Yeah. My mom also had her appendix out, I think, when we were I was probably 4 or 5. And my dad I think he was working in the oil field at that time. And so my mom had went into the doctor's office and they said, oh my God, Mrs. Herman, you're having an appendicitis. We have to take you to the hospital right now. And the hospital was 20 miles away. And so my mom called my dad's mom, Grandma Ida, and she said, oh, Ida, can you come in and get the kids? I have to go to the hospital and get my appendix out. And so when Grandma drove into town, there was 6 little kids sitting on the curb of the road waiting for her to come pick them up. Can you imagine that? I mean, we were probably 8 years old down to 4 or 5 or something. I don't know. Maybe it was 10 down. Yeah, but that's just, I love that. I actually love that story because, it just showed her strength.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So how does that reflect in your life now, Penny?
Well, I think I'm pretty creative. I'm definitely persistent. I have a lot of tenacity, stick-to-itiveness.
Yeah.
And a lot of strength. I think I have a lot of strength.
Another correlation. You do all the things. You may not make your own ketchup and grow the vegetables and process the animals, but you have your own version of that.
That's a good point.
That is a good point. And I'm sure you probably could make ketchup.
I have actually.
Do all the other things.
And you don't complain. Never, Penny. I never
Uh.
hear you complain.
Wow, that's true. I don't think my mom ever did either. It's like sometimes, the not so positive thing she would, we were told that her parents told her, well, you made your bed, Jeanette, now you have to lay in it. And so I think she realized that it was this was the life she was creating. And so she made the most of it because it's what her life was, all these kids. And I think my mom loved being pregnant. She loved it. I think she really loved having babies. She had 9 pregnancies and 7 living children. And so I think she loved it. Yeah.
Beautiful, Penny. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Drusilla?
Well, so happy Mother's Day, Margie. Yeah, so my mother's still raising children, by the way, and she's in her 80s. So that's
She's not
just
raising you, is she, Drusilla?
partially. So no, my brother's daughter, my brother who was in the military, passed away years ago. His daughter is just 18 now. Well, she's turning 19. But yeah, so she lived with my grandmother all these years. So I come from, a family of 10 children. So my mother gave birth 10 times. And by the time she was, I'm thinking 35, maybe, she had 10 children. Yeah, 2 marriages. And what I learned from my mother is resilience, of course, tenacity, but I would say probably the most profound would be her selflessness.
Mm.
Just not even the fact that she had 10 children to raise, but there still would be people in the community that she would just give and give and give, feeding them when we hardly had anything, you know? And that was the thing that I say I look and I admired the most, looking back, is that she was able to still have something to give to people who had nothing.
Mm.
And also the non-judgmental part is probably the part that I carried with me the most. My mother was, I would say, not friends with, but associated with everybody in town. Like everybody in town was my mother. And now that I think about it, that's the same thing she says about me. When I was in school, she would say, well, Priscilla, everybody in school is your friend. Is everybody in school your friend? So yeah, so I truly say I got that from her, because she knew no stranger. And that's the way I can make myself at home with any group of people, you know. There were things that I would say that I saw my mom experience that was really tough, like losing children, and watching her go through that and being able to just stand firm. I think what I experienced and what I saw from that was that her ability to just show up and continue to give love when your heart is breaking and broken. And I think I took that on as well. Like that is something that I think that I don't know. I think it's probably something not learned, but kind of almost innate in me. And that I'm that person for my friends. I'm that everything for them when their worlds are falling apart, kind of person. Yeah. So I think that's probably another trait that I've gotten from her. That's pretty profound.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you imagine the love you have to have for, I mean, it's just for 10 children. And I mean,
I think it must make it easier. What do you think? Well, because it's like, how can you be mad at 10 whole humans, right? It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like there's just so much all around you.
Yeah.
You could probably just look at this person one day and how silly they are, and this person who's just, I think it just, yeah. And I think that's what my mom fears the most, because when I talk to her now that my last niece that she's raising is in college, she has this thing about her now as if she doesn't know what she's going to do and how she's going to be, And I think it's just that we've, all kept her going through no matter what, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Is, that she can show up for people and just be there for people. And that's what has kept her going all these years.
Drusilla, is this the first empty nest time that she's experienced, or has she been an empty nester before?
No. No.
That's
amazing. When did she have her first child?
She was 17.
And she's 80?
84.
Oh.
Yeah.
That is sainthood. Oh my God.
Well, if you think about that, just think about, the women we are working to reach in this podcast are those type of women like your mom, who's like going like, what now? Right? Like what's now? What's next? Yeah. I love it.
She's never not had someone to take care of.
Wow. You better find her a puppy soon.
I am just so glad it's spring right now because she can go out and work in the garden. And because she keeps, when I call her, she says, so I'm like, well, what are you doing today? Well, nothing really, just watching TV. It's like, well, you can go outside and walk today. It's a nice day. Yeah. And I can just tell by the tone. It's, she's just kind of lost a little bit. And she was planning for about 2 to 3 months ahead for Easter Sunday. It's just Easter Sunday.
But you all were there, right?
Yeah, we're there, but we normally don't start planning Easter in January. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I will have to say though, I know Amanda opened, and I'll let Amanda tell her story, and then we'll circle back to talking a little bit about the connection between mother and child and mother wounds and all that good stuff. But yeah, so Amanda, tell us a little bit about your mother and what you learned from her.
Well, my mom had a great sense of adventure, right? Once we graduated from high school, she traveled a lot. That's what she always wanted to do, was travel a lot and do. And so I learned that from her, that that is possible. Whatever you want to do, it's possible. You have to go do it. And my mom also would put my brother and I was ready to mama bear, right? No matter what was going on, she was defending us. Even, I'll throw my brother under the bus. Since, he would go and, break the rules or whatever at school, and mom would rush, go into the principal's office and bawl them out, right? For, because she didn't know that, she was thinking my brother was innocent when he wasn't. So she always defended us and stuck by us and treated us fairly. Everything was very even. So she made a conscious effort to do that. Yeah. So that's what I got from my mother. And, going towards what Drusilla was talking about. So my parents got divorced when I was 3. And I think my dad started dinking around when, she was pregnant with me. And, the first 3 years of my life, I think were really stressful for my mom. Like there was overwhelm because she had, like many of us do, she talked a lot about her father and how important her father was to her. And so she created this fantasy of, of a family in her mind, and a husband that flink dinked around was not part of that fantasy. So I think there was some big like readjustment of the concept of what life would or should look like. So I think that was a big adjustment for her as well. And also, like she had to, she didn't really go into detail a lot, but just like little glimpses. Like she said she was so, I don't even remember the words, but it was to the point where she just couldn't take it. She couldn't take being married to my dad anymore. So she had to get a divorce. So that was like the earliest imprinting of is the man is going to leave, right? That life is different, like the normal family unit, like there's stress and there's conflict, and I'm not sure exactly what else, but I think that overwhelm was present at the very beginning of my life. And my mom really loved us, right? She really wanted us. So I know that love was present. And also I know that my mom was going through some stuff, right?
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So if we're going back to the beginning of like kind of what I learned, I don't know. I kind of went opposite. Like, I have always had a man in my life. That was really somehow that imprinted that I needed a man for safety, that so like I always had boyfriends. I always needed to please a man in my life. Like I wasn't one of those girls that went for long periods of time being single. That just wasn't who I am. Never really talked about that. That just is, as we're discussing, like this whole nother layer of healing is coming up. So that's so interesting.
That's what I love about our conversations. I mean, even me crying, that was a healing moment for me too. So I love that we get to do this together in a safe environment and drill down and figure out maybe a little bit more about who we truly are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I was going to say about that, and my story is pretty similar to yours, Amanda, in that I just found out a couple of years ago, actually, that my mother and my father separated when she was pregnant with me.
Oh.
And divorced, shortly after, a couple of years later.
Are you the youngest, Drusilla?
From my dad.
From
Yes.
your dad. Okay.
I'm married, and I have another sister. Yeah.
Okay.
So and I never knew that story. I always thought I was a toddler. Maybe the story was when they got divorced. So yes, that makes sense. But I was never told the story that they actually separated when I was in her womb. So I would imagine that there could have been some depression or disconnect or anxiety. And so maybe my mother, as I look at it, maybe she overcompensated because how I see it and how I remember it is that I was coddled and protected, and my mother took me everywhere with her, And so, I and that's probably why I didn't necessarily experience what the typical person may have felt in that situation. Because I really, truly, now that I look at it, feel like there was some overcompensation because my sisters are clear that I was treated differently than they were.
Interesting.
So, yeah. And my brothers, I don't know how they feel about it because, men don't really talk that much about anything. They just go through life, whatever. But yeah, so that's how my sisters describe it, that I was always treated special. I got to do activities at school and do all these things that I wanted to do. And they had to, just to go home and help clean the house and do the dishes and all of that kind of stuff. So, I mean, maybe there was something, guilt or something.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll also say, there was always this thing, going back to the mother wound and why, I guess that conversation about the mother wound, and it's cut so deeply, mostly with women and their own mothers. I had that. I didn't know what it was, but I thought it was a natural thing to have this little gray or tender space inside of you with your mother. It was just like it was never 100% just a peaceful exchange or something. And yeah, over the last couple of years, just doing the work and mostly through forgiveness and, not blaming, not looking at what she could have done or should have done, and looking at myself for judging and writing forgiveness letters about those thoughts and feelings I had just totally cleared everything. And I know I've said this before, but in my mother's presence, I really, truly have nothing but pure, unadulterated love. And yeah, literally could crawl back in her womb. It's how I feel. Yeah. And that's, I've always felt safe in her presence, and that no matter what's going on in the world, that everything is going to be okay. I've always had that, but there was always this kind of, this little thing, and it was more of a woman to woman thing that was, I felt with her. And I had to clear that up, I truly did. And it feels amazing to have that, to be able to walk in the room and feel nothing but love. Yeah.
So freeing.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. With my mom, when I was a teenager, their relationship, my mom and dad's relationship, was kind of tumultuous. I guess that's the right word. And I felt like I needed to protect my mom, and I would try to pull my dad off of her when he was not being so nice to her. And so I'm just trying to sort that out right now. What was that about? But I really think I just wanted my mom to be okay. I didn't want her to be hurt. And it was hard to watch my dad hurt her. And she just took it. Yeah. Nobody deserves to be treated that way. Yeah. So I protected her as best I could. I have, some stories that I'm glad that I behaved the way I did, because she was important to me. Yeah. Yeah. So I wonder, so I think about the impact that had on me. So I'm sure that I didn't see all this stuff Amanda, you being 3, and Drusilla, you being in the womb. And how old were you, Melissa, when your parents split up?
10.
10. So that's pretty young too. Yeah. It's really interesting. that a lot of us share that common experience of not having parents that were necessarily getting along, I guess is the best word. Yeah. Yeah. And then we have Morgan, whose parents just like get along like so wonderfully. How awesome.
We're not
is
asking
that?
Morgan any questions.
Like, I want to know the secret sauce, right?
Penny, before we move off you, if you don't mind, so how did that like defending show up? You know, you said you felt like you had to defend your mother. Did that carry on into your life? And if so, like, how did you heal that? How are you healing that? Yeah.
Well, you know, part of it, I think I also learned that I needed to save and fix people, which was not a good thing, right? Like I wanted to help people. But when I was in grade school and mostly grade school and middle school, anybody that was slightly different that the kids would tease or whatever, I always felt like I had to befriend them and to protect them. I really did. And I wanted them to, you know, not feel alone and feel okay. So, gosh, I'm so emotional today. Sorry, everybody.
A lot is coming up for healing. I love it. It's good.
Yeah.
Can you say
good.
again how old you are when your parents split?
My mom and dad never did. My dad died when I was 21 years old. 20 years old. He died of a massive heart attack. And 1 minute he was alive, the next minute he was dead. Though he had complained that he was having the classic signs of a heart attack. And my mom was trying to convince him to go to the doctor, but he didn't want to. And then he was about ready to go. And then he had the heart attack and died. So, so I was 20 when he died.
Okay. And you were perceiving that she stayed with someone longer than she should have, using the word should with air quotes here.
Yeah,
and you said that informed your relationships.
Yeah, she left once or maybe twice. And my little brother was 8. No, he was younger than that. He must have been 5 at the time. So there was 6 of us born and then 10-year break and then another one born. And anyway, he packed a bag and was ready to go because he knew that mom was going to leave and he was going with her. I'll always remember that, seeing Kip with his little suitcase, because that was really sad. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I always thought mom should leave. And I even asked her later, I don't know when it was, but I asked her, why did you stay? Like, why, mom? I think you should have been divorced. That's what I told her. She said, I always wanted to work it out. I always thought we could work it out. And I always thought, wow, that's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Because, at about that time, well, I don't know when divorces really started, but a lot of people were just divorcing because it became the thing to do. And so I think she was so committed, and she, was very, she grew up in a pretty, I want to say pretty religious family. And so, I mean, I don't know if it was, I don't know if it was an option at that time. You just don't get divorced. You work things out, And there's something to be said about that. And there's something to be said about, sometimes the season has passed and it's, like I've learned in my conscious uncoupling class, happily ever after became a term when we lived to be 30 years old. So good. Yeah, it was back in medieval times. Yeah. Happily ever after. Yeah. So, yeah. Just to put it all in context. Yeah.
That's hilarious. So Penny, you said that you needed to fix people, right, and save them. So how
protect
did you? Yeah, how are you healing that? Like, you seeing people as not needing, or are you, right?
It's a process for me for sure, because I can go right into I know what's best for you in a nanosecond. Mm-hmm. And so it is I have to stay really conscious of what I'm doing and to interrupt myself as soon as I realize what I'm doing, because I'll go into it. I mean, it's just a habit, right? I mean, most of the things that we do are just habits. It's our mind that's not very disciplined. And of course, in Miracles, it says, what's our biggest problem is that we have a mind that's not disciplined, or what does it say it's about? Yeah. Anyway, it's about our undisciplined mind. At least Marianne Williamson always says that.
Yeah.
And, and so, it just became like a survival technique for me when I was growing up. Like, I need to protect people. I need to help them. I need to save them, fix them. And what I'm learning, and I'm still in process. I mean, I can, like I said, I can still go back into it, but I just need to remember that people get to live life the way they want to live it. And it's not up to me to decide how that should be. Like, people get to do it their way. And I get to do it my way.
It's
Boy,
easy
is
to
it
say,
ever
it's hard to do.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it sure is. I remember I was at an event. I'm not going to say what event in case somebody listens to this that will recall that event. But I was just so, like frustrated with how people were behaving. And I thought, oh my God, why can't they just stop doing this? Like gossiping and talking about others and stuff. And I talked to a mentor of mine, and she said, well, Penny, maybe it's a good time to start practicing that they get to live life the way they want to, and you get to live life the way you want to, and just go enjoy yourself. Stop judging people. Basically, I was judging that my way is better. Mm-hmm. And who knows whose way is better. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Melissa? What are you, is there anything to heal, and like, how are you going about healing it? Just choose one day.
Where do I start?
My God, are you kidding? And we're going to postpone this to another episode because I'll take the whole time.
You got 2 minutes, Melissa.
Just talk about how journaling is helping you, right? Because you mentioned journaling earlier. Yeah. And I'd love to know, like, why that works for you.
I don't know. It is, well, for one, I'm letting all this stuff out, just letting it out and not work, like double thinking myself. Moving from my head to my heart, as my friend Drusilla says. And the other thing is, it's like connecting dots for me. So I was talking to someone, and they were saying, well, it sounds like at some point you made a decision in your life that you had to take responsibility for everything. And that you had to take responsibility because other people weren't there to do that. And then that you made the decision that that's how people saw you, and that's how you got love from them. And that's who you had to keep doing and doing to be valuable to people. So I had that realization recently. And then
and journaling helped you.
Yeah, it
helped those dots. Yeah,
it helped. And because I can get that kind of concept, and I would write it down, and then I would just write about it. What that was like for me when I think I made that decision. And then someone asked me, who would you be if you didn't have that as your belief and the decision that you made? And I honestly, at 54 and having done so much spiritual work, I said, I have no idea. I have never thought about who I would be if I was just being and not doing, and how people would love me. And so that journaling has given me the opportunity to process that and write that out and go to sleep and wake up the next day and have another heart opening, I guess, and then write some more. And I feel like it's just healing as I'm writing. And I remember I stopped journaling in my probably late 20s because it was just so like, and then he did this, and then I did this, and then he did this, and, you know, or just this blaming my parents. And I just wasn't healing from it. It was more of a reinforcement of the shit that I got, and I'm going to hold on to it, you know? So it's been different now. It's just been very healing.
Do you follow like any journaling prompts, or you just kind of write about whatever comes to your mind? Or
Well, I've been trying to be really open with what I'm going through. So when people say things to me that like resonate with me, I will write it down. And then I take time with it. I just sit with it, or I share it with someone else, or I'm working on just being and not doing. So I don't have to figure it out. But part of the being is just letting it be there. And also let some of the not so happy feelings about it all just be there. So no, but someone did say to me, why don't you try that? It's like a 10-minute, I think it's called like flow writing. You do not lift your pen up. You just keep writing for 10 minutes. You set a timer and you just keep writing and keep writing. But I kind of feel like my doors were all kind of cracking open, and I just was trying to think it through so much in my brain. Like what's happening, what's going to happen next, that I just wasn't feeling anything. And so it's given me an opportunity to just, as stuff comes up, I write it down.
That's a beautiful journaling. Beautiful.
That was so beautiful, Melissa. I just have to say, because I don't know that we have said this in the setting before, that no matter what tool we're talking about, whether it's the writing, the meditating, the essence of it is to remove the blocks to love.
Yeah.
And that's what you just described so eloquently, Melissa. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because
I love that recap, Drusilla.
Yes. That's all there is. Yes.
And the ego.
Exactly.
Letting
we're getting rid of the ego, and we're opening up to love. Chipping away at the ego to open up to love.
Yeah. Because you can't write as fast as the ego intellectual mind works. And so it creates a little bit of space. That's how it works for me anyway. And yet I resist the practice. You're inspiring me, Melissa. I haven't journaled in a while either, but I know that like that is how like I hear clear guidance, and I like connect most clearly with spirit is through journaling. And yet I have resistance to doing it.
Well, one thing we can try is to stop calling it journaling, because some people have a resistance to that.
That's true.
It's just writing.
That's what I started calling it, is just writing. Yeah, I'm writing.
That's right. It's just writing. And I mean, I love it even when I don't have a topic. That's when I got the most healing about my father, because I didn't even know I needed to write something. If I waited on myself to do it, it would have never happened. I just sat down and just started writing one day, and it came up to, oh my God, forgive your father for your judgment thoughts against him. You know? And so thank you, Melissa.
Yeah. Thank you.
That was beautiful.
Wow, this topic, we could go on for days, I think, on this topic.
But we are at the end.
Yeah, boy, I'm telling you, what a powerful healing session this has been. You guys don't have to go, audience, you do not have to go to therapy. Just listen in to us each week, and we will help you break through all those blocks to love. That's what we're here
Unless you need to go to therapy from listening to us.
And to think, we didn't even talk about our own parenting of our own children. We only talked about top down. So, oh my gosh, we only scratched the surface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole nother episode. Yeah. Okay. So here's a couple post-its. When we think about our
About our
mothers,
mothers,
let's move
let's
from
move
our
from our
head
head to our
to
heart.
our heart. I love that,
Oh.
Drusilla. Or yeah, I
Love
believe
it.
Drusilla said that. And then I loved when you said, get out of get out of the ego and open ourselves to love. That was just really cool. And then just fill in the blank. Mothers are.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing that we did today. Kind of, you can all just fill in the blank for all the love that you have for any mothers that are in your life or not in your life physically anymore. Yeah. So thank you all for joining us. Again, it's just been another powerful healing session for me. I thank you all. And thank you for listening in. Oh my gosh. We all five of us, the five lemons laughing here, are so grateful and thankful that you've been hanging out with us for 72 episodes or 73 episodes. 73 episodes. This is episode 73. Who would have ever thunk, right? You can find us on all the social media platforms as well as podcast platforms. Or you can go to our beautiful website, lemonslaughing.com. So thank you all again, and everyone have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your week and enjoy every little bit of your mother that you can.
Yeah. Happy
Yeah.
Mother's Day, everybody.
Happy Mother's
Yeah.
Day. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.